Right now on KGW News at noon, court documents detail a 2024 shooting Homeland Security says involved one of the people shot by Border Patrol agents last week. And January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, how ODOT is working to increase awareness for Oregonians who spend most of the time on the road. Plus, lawmakers on both sides of the Columbia River voiced their frustrations after new estimates to replace the I-5 bridge more than double. And later, OHSU is asking lawmakers to preserve funding for a program they say is key to bolstering the already strained healthcare workforce. Your News at Noon starts now. Our top story here at noon, Portland police are searching for a driver who hit a cruiser, injuring 2 officers before fleeing. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm Stephanie Domerat. PPB says this happened around 2:30 this morning near the intersection of Southeast 148th and Stark. They say the officers were responding to a call and had their lights and sirens on when they were hit. The other car hit the passenger side door, triggering all airbags and even trapping one of the officers inside until the fire department could pry that door open. Both officers were taken to the hospital and later released. PPB says the car that hit the officers is a dark-colored Chevy Suburban that should have damage to the front end. If you have information, you're asked to contact Portland Police. And now to new information about last week's shooting involving U.S. Border Patrol in southeast Portland. Court documents show months before that incident, local law enforcement was already investigating one of the victims for her alleged involvement in a shooting case back in July. Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz has more from Washington County.
Court documents show that back in July there was a shooting at the Frank Estate Apartments behind us on Southwest Furlock Way here in Washington County. It's a pretty quiet apartment complex. Investigators say that shooting is tied to one of the 2 victims who was shot by a federal agent in a targeted stop last week. The sheriff's office tells KGW no one was hurt in that July shooting and suspects fled the scene. Months later, it's an incident one neighbor remembers vividly.
And then next thing I know, I see the sheriff's department coming down my stairs and in our backyard and stuff. Fully got, the beanbag guns ready to go and stuff. So, just very confused what was going on.
Detectives identified Betsabe Zambrano-Contreras as a person of interest in that case. Federal officials say she was one of 2 people shot by Border Patrol agents last week. The other is Luis Nino Mancada. Federal officials say both are tied to a Venezuelan gang and a prostitution ring. Back in July, here at the Frank Estate, an arrest affidavit by an FBI agent says sheriff's deputies interviewed 2 victims who were not injured. They said they'd engaged Zambrano-Contreras in prostitution services. The affidavit says she left after a dispute, then came back with several men and tried to break into the apartment. One victim ran out of the back of the apartment and says he was shot at while running away. 6 months later, the neighbor that we spoke with says he is in disbelief that shooting has escalated to where we are today. In the meantime, Zambrano-Contreras is now at an ICE transfer center in Tacoma, Washington. Meanwhile, Nino Mancada is behind bars, and he's scheduled to be in court on Wednesday. In Washington County, Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
Thomas, thank you for that update. Portland police are reviewing a complaint about comments an officer made at a recent protest. The interaction was recorded, and in the video, a demonstrator appears to question the officer about the deadly shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis. Take a look.
Renee Nicole Good, you would shoot her too!
If she drove a car at me, yes.
So you would say service, you absolutely clear for me.
What? Sometimes criminals get shot. If they threaten a
By
cop,
who? By
they
who?
get shot. By law enforcement.
Get shot by law enforcement?
Absolutely.
When they're doing nothing?
No, when they're breaking the law.
Now, that officer has now been assigned to duties as the Police Bureau reviews the complaint against him. Portland Police Chief Bob Day tells KGW in a statement, quote, "Tensions are high at this time, and this is affecting all of us, including community members and Portland Police Bureau members. Our goal is to ensure that community trust is maintained and that members of the Bureau consistently represent the professional standards that everyone deserves," end quote. And stay with KGW as we continue to cover the new developments and the fallout from the Border Patrol shooting last week. For all of our previous coverage to get up to date, you can go to our website anytime. That's KGW.com, or you can download our free TV streaming app, KGW Plus. We'll take a look at this. Volunteers helped the Hood River County Sheriff's Office rescue a couple of climbers over the weekend. The Sheriff's Office says one of the climbers fell into White River Glacier while the 2 were on Mount Hood on Saturday. The sheriff's office says climbing conditions are challenging right now because of variable snow conditions and warm temperatures. Let's get to Chris McGinnis in the Weather Center. Of course, we've got a temperature inversion, you call it, right, between the valley and the mountains. Can you break down what that means exactly?
Much warmer aloft than it is down in the valley, which is kind of the flip-flop of the way things usually are. So right now, it's 56 degrees at Timberline Lodge. It's 38 degrees in Salem. And the result for some of us is that we're stuck beneath a low cloud deck and fog like this out in Aloha right now, where it's currently 45, but elsewhere, again, as we mentioned, it's even cooler. Salem right now checking in with 38 degrees, stuck beneath that low cloud deck. Meanwhile, as we look from downtown Portland, it's gorgeous, right? So depending on where you are, we do have some breaks in the clouds and fog like over downtown. It's 45 at the airport, but there are some pockets across the metro area right now that are in the 30s and socked in, like Hillsborough and McMinnville right now, socked in with the fog. And there are some fog pockets all the way down into Lynn and Benton counties as well. So with that in mind, the Weather Service has the dense fog advisory through the nooks and crannies in the Coast Range and portions of the Willamette Valley, excluding the Portland-Vancouver metro area, through 2 o'clock. And you know what? This could be one of those days where it might not even clear after 2 o'clock. So just be aware of that. That is not an infrequent weather pattern in the winter when the weather really quiets down, and that's what we're at right now. It's 45, as we mentioned, at the airport. Statewide, we've got temperatures in the mid-50s at the coast, and as I mentioned, it's already 56 degrees at Timberline, up at 6,000 feet on Mount Hood. So therein is the classic temperature inversion. Sunny in downtown, sunny in Vancouver right now, but elsewhere we are dealing with some fog out there. It'll be mostly sunny in the locations that are clear through the afternoon, with temperatures hovering in the low 50s. All of us will likely see some fog tonight, and tomorrow is probably a repeat performance of today, Stephanie, if not even more so widespread with the fog. So we'll keep you posted on that and have a look ahead beyond, which looks quite dry, coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, Chris, thank you. January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and this week ODOT is educating truck drivers and the public on how to spot the signs of it. ODOT's Commerce and Compliance Division and the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance have been at different weigh stations around the state, handing out flyers, posters, and decals with information about human trafficking. They're hoping by getting this information to truckers that drivers may be able to spot potential victims, including individuals who don't know what town they're in or those who aren't allowed to have money. Truckers will have the information cards, decals, or posters with the National Human Trafficking Hotline number listed.
Pass those cards out with every inspection and every citation, every warning, and every conversation we have with the truck driver.
Now, it is important to be aware of this signal. That was what Libby was doing just there. If someone makes the sign of curling their fingers over their thumb, it may mean they're trafficked or abused or they need help. To reach the National Human Trafficking Hotline, you can call the number you see here on your screen, 888-373-7888 for 24/7 confidential support. To Pacific County on the Washington coast now, where the Ilwaco Fire Chief Jeffrey Archer appeared in court yesterday. He was arrested on Friday after 3 people accused him of sexual abuse. The Pacific County Sheriff's Office says Archer molested or raped 3 minors several times between 2013 to 2019 while he was babysitting them. At least one victim told police Archer gave them drugs or alcohol. Another said it happened frequently. Pacific County Sheriff Daniel Garcia called the arrest of a public figure that is in a position of trust troubling.
Anything like this hinders and hurts the emergency services. We're all in a position of trust, which needs to be coveted, maintained, and not broken. And this is extremely disheartening.
Archer is facing 37 counts. The vast majority are molestation and rape of a child. The sheriff's office says there could be more victims after at least 5 more people have come forward after this news. Archer's bail was set at $500,000. He is currently in jail and on administrative leave. If you or someone you know is a survivor of sexual assault, that help is always available to you. You can call the number here, 800-656-4673. Help is available for you 24 hours a day. That number again on your screen. And now to national headlines this afternoon. The Republican-controlled House Oversight Committee is threatening to hold former President Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress. The threats come after Clinton did not show up for a deposition. to answer questions about his ties for late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The committee also subpoenaed former First Lady and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. In a letter to the committee, the Clintons said they won't go before the committee because those subpoenas are legally invalid. Committee Chairman James Comer said members will now move to hold the former president in contempt. Tech giant Microsoft says it will pay electricity rates high enough to mitigate the impact of its data centers on consumers' energy bills. The company says it will work with regulators in order to do so and pledges to pitch in for related infrastructure changes. Data centers related to AI are increasing demand on the country's electrical grid. Last week, Facebook announced it's investing in nuclear power for similar reasons. New data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows prices edged up last month, though not as much as analysts feared. Excluding food and energy costs, prices were up 2.6% annually, including food and energy costs. Now both are, including food and energy, it was 2.7% annually. Now both are higher than the Federal Reserve's 2% annual target. And those are your national headlines.
As most people know, it's hard for small businesses out here, and we're no exception.
A local family-owned business says one of their employees stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from them last year. The owner of restaurant Verde Cocina says their catering manager was taking customer payments for himself and had pocketed over $280,000. The district attorney's office says more evidence against the employee needs to be collected before there's a case, although documents confirm that employee did admit to stealing $285,000.
He was somebody that we trusted. It was from a Square account, but it wasn't ours. He was using our logo, our name, but it wasn't from our account.
According to the DA's office, the initial case has been dismissed, but is still actively being investigated, and charges are expected to be filed eventually.